What happens when you get three of the best creators in the indie comic scene all in one place? You're about to find out as I sit down with Timothy Lim, Mark Pellegrini, and Douglas Ernst from Iconic Comics. And if you like the entire hour and a half of unedited insight, inspiration, and madness from this interview, you can find that in the channel member section or on my Patreon, linked below. Now let's get it, let's go. I got Mark Pellegrini, Timothy Lim, and Douglas Ernst.
Hey, what's up?
Thanks for having us back.
You did that in reverse alphabetical order so I could go first. Oh yeah, I don't see that very often.
I want it to be as unexpected as when you brought up the whole Misha's feet thing last time you were on, Mark. I want it to just smack people and have them not know what's going on at all.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Let me just say that all three of these guys on this panel have been doing the damn thing, growing the iconic brand, growing the fan base. The fact that there are people on my timeline who are just every Wednesday I go, hey guys, it's Waku Waku Wednesday. Every time. It does not fail. After a while, I'm thinking, all right, so I'll get one book from one person. I'm like, the characters from the other thing gonna pop up in that too. The next Soulfinder I get, I bet you I could open it up and freaking Carly's in there. Just cause. Don't even need a reason. It's a shared universe.
So Doug created the character of Father Redder, and he's a character that didn't really exist within the Kamen America and Black Ops universe. He's this world-weary, tired character, and I love the way Tim draws him, where it has this like little line under his eyes just to show that he's a little bit older and a little bit tired. And so I get to use him in different ways, like when Doug allows in like Kamen America 7 or in the Black Ops Soulfinder crossover, and I get to do stuff with him that I can't do with the characters that Tim and I created.
What did Will Smith say in Men in Black 3? He got some city miles on his face.
Yeah.
Like he clearly got some. Like he done been around the block.
Well, one of the things that we take pride in is whenever we do a chapter and we plot it out, we're not actually just plotting out the chapter. We actually plot long term. One thing that Mark and I have already established is we know how Kamen America eventually ends. And we just have to build little by little until we get there. Kamen America is essentially our playground where it's like, this is the world where everything that Mark especially has wanted to ever write, we want to set it up to where we can get there. However, when you look at Kamen America at face value, it isn't that kind of superhero, tokusatsu, henshin genre. So we have to use that as the facade for the book. But one thing that we've always wanted to do was touch on the supernatural. We knew it would take years to make it to that point. So by the time we got to the Soulfinder crossover, the good thing is now we're at a point in Carly's story where we can introduce the supernatural in a very organic way. We have a character named Xander Ecto who can actually manipulate supernatural substances within that world. And so now we have another excuse for Father Redder to show up, because he's essentially the member of the Black Ops team. He's kind of the reservist who they call in for those types of encounters. We always run this by Doug, and we're like, hey, just let you know, we're bringing in Redder. He's going to be in 2 pages. We need to at least have your blessing, no pun intended, to make sure that it lines up to what you expect the character to do. But, you know, he'll tell you that it's all just a matter of time.
Early on when we were talking about it, and we were like, we don't want to just be like, oh, that'd be cool, Father Redder and Carly were together just because, or whatever. And it was like, no, it has to make sense. So for the Soulfinder Volume 4, which takes place in Vietnam, that will be the origin of Father Crane, but also Father Blatty, when they were both on a team that is inspired by the Vietnam tunnel rats. They're essentially tasked to go on a mission with an embedded Soulfinder with them. And their experience on this mission with this Soulfinder changes the trajectory of both of their lives. So it's just been a really cool working relationship. It's cool that Tim and Mark are both friends, but then we're also able to work together on a professional level for so many years now and like not have it implode like happens. You see like, you know, in other industries and even comic books.
I know that personally, so I'm really glad to know that that hasn't caused any static or anything between you guys.
We all kind of trust each other. Father Blatty was introduced in Kamen America Volume 2. I couldn't think of a good name for Father Blatty. I just needed a name for Carly's Catholic priest. And then so we came up with the idea that, oh, well, his name is Father Blatty, Blatty from The Exorcist. Maybe he was a soul finder, and that became a joke in the Soul Finder Black Ops crossover. And then Doug ran with it as, Blatty's backstory in Soul Finder 4, and it was great. It was so intuitive, and we all just trust each other with each other's characters, and Doug did a great backstory for Blatty. It's just kind of like worked out.
Back in the day, imagining that it would get here, I had no way of conceiving it, but looking back, it's like, oh, and everything had to start off walking and crawling for y'all to run. Because like you were saying, if you just came out the gate and were like, okay, issue 2 is when Misha gets possessed, and then that's when Father Blatty has to do an exorcism on the fly, and then here comes this random chopper that drops out the Black Hops crew, and then there's that would have been terrible. Yeah, it makes so much sense now, but I'm so glad that y'all did take the time to do the proper setup and to wait and not just rush out.
Holding your tongue can be the hardest part,
Sir,
when you read a review and someone's like, I don't get this. And you're like, well, we do, but we're thinking a year ahead, and you'll get it too, but you got to hold on for 1 year, and then you'll get there, kind of just have to, hold your tongue. You're like, oh.
Yeah. It's like the worst Christmas feeling.
If you remember Animaine, it's like with the ending of Kamen America Volume 3, with the reveal of who Vermilion Masquerade is, there was this kind of oh crap moment where people were like, but were there hints? And I was like, yeah, you can actually read through the previous 3 volumes and you can see, but that was a 2-year payoff. Like, we had to just bite our tongues and be like, just trust us, we know, I don't want to say we know what we're doing, but we know where our story is going. And with Kamen America Volume 8, which is going to be coming out, I mean, it's finished, it's already been printed, but once people see its conclusion, we hope that the reaction is like that times 2, because now people are going to go back and be like, oh man, they foreshadowed this over 4 volumes, but they didn't tell anyone. But thinking about it, going back to the crossover, that took 5 volumes of Kamen America, 4 volumes of Black Ops, and 2 volumes of Soul Finder. So you're looking at 11 volumes of work to get there. That was not done over the course of months. That was done over the course of years. And you want to talk about crossovers, in Volume 1, the first time we see Carly wearing civilian wear, she's wearing a t-shirt that says Steepleton on it. So you already had 1 or 2 readers who were like, oh, that's a reference to Soul Finder. And it's like, yeah, it is. But in my mind, it's not just a reference. It means that it exists in that world. It reminds me of, I don't know if we mentioned it on this stream or someone else's, but I remember when I was a kid, we were watching Batman Forever, and there's a scene where Val Kilmer's talking to Chris O'Donnell, so it's Bruce Wayne talking to Robin, and he's like, hey, you gonna leave this early? He's like, yeah, I gotta go. And it's like, you do know Metropolis is 3 hours away, right? And as a kid, I was like, oh man, that's so cool, because they're acknowledging that Metropolis exists, which means that in that world, Superman has to exist. So it's we want to put enough information there so that our readers who are keeping track of all of this, they're like, oh, so they've intimated that in this world, that possibility is out there.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Just as I know from my own experience as a writer, that one of the hardest feelings in the world is the pacing and the holding of the tongue. Sometimes it can be the most minute detail. I actually put something in there for one of my books because for one of my characters, I decided that I was going to do a costume change. But I'm like, I don't want to just necessarily spring it on people in upcoming issue. So I wrote something in there that basically says, without straight up saying, that she's going to be in a different outfit. So for brand new people who are jumping on the next time she shows up, if they don't go back and read that old stuff, they're just going to see her in the new dope outfit, and that's fine.
It's so frustrating because you got to trust in I'm not going to say the intelligence of the readers, but the readers who will go back and reread, the earlier issues. Not every reader will do that. One are just 1 month at a time. It's almost like it's disposable with books.
Right.
You've got to kind of hope that they will go back and retread the previous area. Occasionally you get reviews from the readers who don't do that, and it feels very frustrating, but realistically not every reader is going to do that, so you understand and you just make your peace with it.
And there's some reviews where they didn't read carefully and they complain about something where they're just literally wrong. They're objectively wrong about something.
Those are my favorites.
And then you're just like, do I say something? Do I not? Is it worth it? Is this gonna start a fight?
They bought your book, you know? It's like, how can I can't be mean to them. They paid the money, they bought the book, they wrote a review, even if they're wrong, you know, they were still a customer. I can't say something mean to them, you know, but at the same time, they're wrong.
Isn't that cute? But it's wrong!
At this point, you have, what was it again, Tim? 11 issues total of all the different books?
20 volumes of work between 3 people, and that's 20 volumes in less than 6 years. I can't believe when people would say this, but they'll say like, well, Tim is lazy because he's too busy doing this and this behind the scenes instead, and he should just focus on his work. I was like, how am I not focusing on my work when I put in so many hours a day? I do all the artwork, I do all the lettering, I do all the coloring, and I run the logistics of it. That's not to say that Mark's contribution isn't there, but Mark is essentially the brain because he's the one who comes up with the script. And, you know, one thing that we've always talked about is, I think one thing that makes Iconic kind of stand out is there's a really good symbiotic relationship between artists and writers. We don't have this whole debate of, oh, who's the most important? Is it the artist or the writer? It's like, well, I would say it's the writer, but I'm pretty sure Mark would say it's the artist. Like, I think that mutual understanding shows that, like a human body, you got to have your brain and your heart. You can't operate lacking one. They're both essential.
So I'm writing Kamen America 9 right now, and there are pages where I'm like, I'm up to 6 panels. Do I want to put this on Tim? Do I really want to ruin Tim's day by putting 6 panels to him, you know? I think about like how much hard work like Tim has to put in, you know, to draw all the bullcrap that I'm writing, you know? Like I'll put in a panel description and I'll have like 50 different things going on in one panel. Like, oh god, Tim's got to draw that. Well, good luck, Tim. Godspeed. You know?
Sorry. Good luck. Have fun. Quiet. You rock. Cancel that.
We've talked, I think, a little bit in past streams about you guys' your creative relationship. Even the fact that you have that so well done, that's a key reason how y'all got to 20 volumes in under 6 years. Because let me tell you something, I'm not going to turn this into a rant stream, but I've been on some teams where that cohesion was not there. And that's why I'm not on those teams anymore.
Oh, it's not just you though. Like, I see the debate all the time on social media. Like, a lot of artists, especially Americans, they're like, I hate it when this guy like basically bullied me because look at this DM, like he's bugging me for the work. Like, where's the work? And I'm like, bro, I have a life outside of this, you know, like be patient. I was like, I have never received a late piece of art from a Japanese artist, not once. In 3 years that I've been commissioning Japanese artists, they've never been late, never given me excuses. And I was like, guess what? I don't give excuses either. Like, I've been working in merchandising for a decade. I have always made a deadline. Like, doesn't matter if I'm sick, doesn't matter if I'm not feeling well, always made it. And, you know, I'm gonna go on a little rant, but we've talked about it with Doug, with Mark, but I said one of the things, and I think this is kind of why I don't do a lot of cultural commentary anymore, is because I do feel like the arts, and maybe comics in general, I really do think there's a cancer where it manifests symptomatically no matter what side you fall on. And it's this kind of mentality where it's like, I'll get to it when I get to it. Mark and I, we have a schedule that we adhere to, and our readers like it and they look forward to it. They're like, oh boy, I know I'm gonna get at least 2 books a year, 3 if you include Black Hops. We know they're gonna be punctual. We know they're gonna be on time. We always have something to look forward to, and we don't mess around when it comes to this type of thing. Everything has to be a well-oiled machine, and I know Doug's like that because with him working with Matt Weldon, we're gonna goof on Matt a little bit. Matt is like he's like a manatee or a whale. When he says he's gonna do something, he's like, "Adios, Doug. I'm off to work on your book." Psh! And he goes into the depths. And Doug is like, Matt, where are you? And I'm like, he's gone, Doug. He's gone to work on Soulfinder. You might see him again in a month, but be patient. It's not easy, and it's a miracle that over time we've just kind of had to learn from trial and error. Kind of like, okay, this guy can get the work done on time. This guy is a little bit slow. That's the sad thing about working in comics as far as like dealing with our peers and our associates. It's kind of heartbreaking, but you're gonna have a lot of people you are not going to gel with, and that's okay. You just have to either cut them out or learn to deal with it and manage those expectations wisely.
I always use this quote by you guys know Customato?
Yep.
Yeah, there's this quote about professionalism that I just learned from him last year. It is now one of my life mantras. I believe a man is a professional when he can do what needs to be done, no matter how he feels within. An amateur is an amateur in his attitude emotionally. A professional is a professional in the way that he thinks, feels, and in his ability to execute under the most trying conditions. That just punctuates what you guys just said. If the next chapter of Kamen Academy drop every Wednesday at such and such, that's just what's gonna happen. Whatever sickness, whatever personal feelings you got, because either this thing gonna happen or it's not. Either you gonna keep
My
delivering on your
dysentery
promise
never
to
gets
your...
in the way of Kamen Academy.
Enough said.
Okay.